What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with DFS, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video going over the Monday Night Showdown between the Ravens and Chargers. So in this one, we get a pretty high total, 50 total. Baltimore favored by 2.5. We get the Harbaugh brothers in a good matchup here. We get two really good quarterbacks, right? I think a lot of people were lower on Justin Herbert going into the season. They're just going to be a run-heavy team. And Justin Herbert, passing-wise has been damn near perfect. Granted, only 13 passing touchdowns, but, still not the greatest for yardage, but one interception this season. The guy has been keeping the Chargers in the game. They pass when they need to. They rely on the run. But he slings it when he needs to. So, going over what we know of these teams, we get Baltimore, one of the most efficient offenses in the league, facing a Chargers defense that has been one of the more efficient defenses in the league. You go and look at red zone rate. Baltimore has, I think, the highest or second highest red zone percentage. The Chargers are a top 5 defense in the red zone. Chargers offense, kind of mid in red zone. Baltimore defense, same thing, kind of mid. So, you're gonna see which prevails. You're gonna either see Baltimore's offense succeed or the Chargers defense succeed, right? The Chargers offense to Baltimore's defense is pretty consistent. Baltimore has just been getting beat in the pass all season. Both teams play the run really well. And this is two teams that, win games off the run, right? I think it's clear that when Lamar needs to take over, he could take over. When Justin Herbert needs to take over, he could take over. But these are two teams that rely on the run to consistently win them games, right? They're just going to keep attacking you, and eventually you're going to break. That's how both teams play. Now, it is interesting because we have both quarterbacks and both running backs over 10K, right? We have the two top receivers over 9K. So, how are we going to attack this? If you go and look at Lamar in primetime games, especially on Monday night, he is damn near perfect in his career. Like, plays amazing football on Monday night games. I think it's a great opportunity for him here on the road against the Chargers, to where the Chargers defense, you look at some of the opponents they played this season. They played Cincinnati, who Baltimore's played Cincinnati, had some banger games. Tennessee's offense, Cleveland's offense, New Orleans' offense, Carolina's offense, Vegas's offense. They've played some pretty bottom offensive teams this season. They played some good defenses too, but offensively, like the Chargers defense has gotten some easy matchups this season. So I'm looking at both quarterbacks here. I'm looking at Lamar. I'm looking at Justin Herbert. I think this is going to be a battle of quarterbacks. Now the points might not get there, but I do think we're going to have a back and forth game. Like, one score pops off, we could see it, right? We've seen Lamar be able to hang with anybody. We've seen Justin Herbert this season, like I said, sling when he needs to. Years past, it's been, Justin Herbert being able to do that, right? Being able to battle with people. This year, they've played a different approach. They have more wins because of it. But I think if one offense pops off, the other one is going to be able to respond. It's just, are those big plays going to happen, right? So I like both quarterbacks. I don't like the running backs in this one. I like J.K. Dobbins receiving in this one. One thing Baltimore has gotten beat by is running backs in the receiving game. I think they're a bottom 5 defense against the running backs in receiving. So I like J.K. Dobbins for his receiving. It is a hefty price to pay, though, to get 10 and 10-8 with the quarterbacks at 11 and 10-4. Especially if you want to get the wide receivers, right? Zay Flowers, the clear-cut number 1 receiver on this team. Rashard Bateman having a really good season as well to kind of support it. Them utilizing Isaiah Likely. But if we're talking ceiling games, Zay Flowers is kind of that guy. Got a better matchup, right? Going to see a good amount of Derwin James, but In this one, I like Zay Flowers. I think he has the advantage. Landon McConkey, you're watching his injury status going into this one, obviously dealing with some shoulder frustrations. So I imagine Landon McConkey plays. Right, I like every Chargers receiver in this one. But if we're talking strictly matchups, I'm not taking Landon McConkey or Quentin Johnston, right? They play better versus man than the guy we're going to talk about. But if we're talking about strictly matchups of guys they're going to see, there is an opportunity, and it's neither Landon McConkey or Quentin Johnston. Now, Will Dissly, before we get to the guy I'm going to talk about, Will Dissly's in a really good spot with Hayden Hurst out. Baltimore has just been getting torched by tight ends all season. Roquan Smith has not practiced at all this week. Would watch that if Roquan is out. That's kind of even more of a boost to Will Dissly. But nonetheless, even if Roquan's in, it's a really good matchup for Will Dissly. So I like him and his price point, $6,400. But the guy we're talking about, Josh Palmer at $5,200, just a matchup, right? Just who he's going to see. He's not going to see Humphrey. He's not going to see Hamilton. So I like him for that aspect. Now, granted, you look at his numbers this season, 2 games above 10 points. I get it. If he has one of these games where he gets you, somewhere around 13 to 14 points, I think he pays off for his price point on this one. It allows you to pay up for those guys, without getting McConkey or Quentin Johnston, who you look at Quentin Johnston, he's kind of been a boomer bust guy this season, kind of where he's been at. The touchdowns have definitely saved some of his performances, right? Take this one away, he's got 6. Take this one away, he's got 4. Take this one away, he's got 6. So there's some games dependent on touchdowns for Quentin Johnston. Versus Landon McConkey really hasn't been as touchdown dependent, right? Getting there with yardage, 6-1-23, 6-1-11, 5-67 gets a touchdown though. But some of those games, Landon McConkey isn't as touchdown dependent. So I do like Will Dissly and Josh Palmer. Right, you kind of save money on both. Will Dissly still has as good of a matchup as the wide receivers. Josh Palmer matchup just is there for him, for me. Rashard Bateman, I definitely think if you don't want to play Zay Flowers, right, you can't afford the price tag, still want to get a receiver. Rashard Bateman has been getting a lot more work this season than previous seasons. His yardage is up there. Snuck in a few touchdowns this season. But the thing to kind of watch for, right, is the tight ends for Baltimore. Mark Andrews outsnapped Isaiah Likely last week, but only got 3 targets, 2 for 22 against the Pittsburgh defense that played tight ends quite well this season. Isaiah Likely 4 for 75. So, Denzel Perryman is out for the Chargers. We know that already. He is out. So he is a guy that strictly covers tight ends, on covering routes. Not saying he's going to cover them every route. That's not how defenses are played. But for a majority of the time, he is going to cover the tight ends. With him being out, that is a boost for Baltimore tight ends. You obviously get them at a discount compared to every other Baltimore guy except for Deontay Johnson. But Bateman and Zay Flowers and Derrick Henry, you get a discount. So that is a positive for Baltimore tight ends. Now, if we're talking about kickers, right, I mentioned how good the Chargers defense has been in the red zone. I think people are down on Justin Tucker because he's having a down year, right? He's not the Justin Tucker we've been used to for years, to where, hey, Justin Tucker's kicking it, he's making it. This has been an off year for kickers. I do like him for the field goals today, though. I think this is a scenario, if the Chargers defense has done what they've done this season and been a really good red zone defense, Justin Tucker is going to get those kicks. So I do like Justin Tucker. On the other side, Dicker the kicker is in play as well, right? I mentioned Baltimore's defense has kind of been mid in the red zone. They do allow a lot of yards. Chargers, are consistent offense, get down the field. So both kickers have to be in play for me tonight. I mentioned Chargers offense. It's kind of mid-pack in red zone. And the Ravens defense has been mid in the red zone as well, right? So Baltimore kind of allowing some bigger play touchdowns instead of just red zone touchdowns, but kind of mid in the pack there. Both defenses, it's hard for me to play both defenses or have a lot of exposure to both defenses when, in my opinion, there's two elite quarterbacks. I think clear cut Lamar is a elite quarterback. I believe Justin Herbert is an elite quarterback as well, right? Like when they need Justin Herbert to be a top quarterback, to pass the ball, to keep them in games, to win them games, he has that capability. We've seen it for years. He has that capability. It's just not always being able to get it done, right? But still, being able to make big time passes, keep, drive down the field with, under 2 minutes, he's able to do that. So it's really hard for me to play defenses against quarterbacks. Now, if we're talking about, leverage, they're not going to have a lot of exposure. So if one or both defenses play well, like you're going to see an advantage over the field. That's just how it's going to be. But I'm just not willing to take that risk. Deontay Johnson, like it's got to be worth mentioning of the potential Deontay Johnson has against the Chargers, just playing zone. But he has just not been used since being acquired on the team, right? I think this is kind of a safety valve pickup for Baltimore. Maybe when they get in the playoffs and they're going to have to pass more than use Derrick Henry, whatever the scenario, maybe Zay Flowers or Bateman go down. They don't want to go down, similar scenarios of teams that are missing wide receivers, and it takes a toll on their team. So having someone like Deontay Johnson as a third wide receiver versus Nelson Aguilar, it gives them some more safety net. He has not been used. Like we have to acknowledge it, right? We know how good Deontay Johnson could be. He's just not being used right now. I can't play, right? I know someone like Justice Hill, is going to get work. Like it may not be the best, right? Chargers play running backs really, really well this season. It's just been a consistency. Justice Hill is not going to beat you on the ground. He's going to be used in the receiving game if he's used. So I would rather take a shot for $200 more on Justice Hill than play for Deontay Johnson. Gus Edwards, his first game back, he gets 6 carries for 27 yards. Not a bad game, right? Getting consistent work the last 2 weeks has been better, right? I think the Chargers offensive line has gotten better. More consistent on the type of runs they want to get with Gus Edwards. I think it's very clear. But it's just a very tough matchup for Gus Edwards. Very tough matchup for him. And J.K. Dobbins is kind of their number one guy, right? He took that early in the season and just rolled with it. Other than that, there's not a lot of guys down here. Nelson Aguilar has gotten in, right? We kind of know he's going to be, if he's going to be utilized, it's going to be a deep ball threat. Obviously, this season really hasn't been there as much. Gotten 2 touchdowns in the red zone, but he's worth mentioning. He's 2,400. He's just, he's going to be behind the other 3. Baltimore uses quite a bit of double tight end, so they use a fullback as well, Patrick Ricard. So it's very tough for Nelson Aguilar to get in. Keaton Mitchell, they just have not used since getting back. Eventually, hopefully they use them, but not right now. They're not. Tyrone Wallace, not really interested in. The only person that we're gonna mention maybe is like Rieger or DJ Chark if Ladd McConkey's out, but if he's not out, like none of these guys are worth mentioning. So kind of the cheapest guys I'm looking at, right, is Gus Edwards, Deontay Johnson, Justice Hill. Kind of out of that, Justice Hill. So that's where I'm at. So if you guys are looking to get my plays, get my bets and props, our FanDuel as well, if you guys are interested in any of that, click the link for our website. Very cheap subscription package. Only a handful of weeks left in the season, so we're getting towards the end of it. So if you guys are interested, just click the link for that. And I will see you guys in the next one.